بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Reflections. We are in model 8, lesson 2, math grade 8. Today we have reflections. So in this lesson, we want to describe reflections of figures on the coordinate plane using the coordinates and coordinate notation. The first idea in this lesson, we want to learn reflections on a coordinate plane. What's the meaning of a reflection? What's the meaning of a reflection? A reflection is a mirror image of the original figure. Is a mirror image of the original figure. It is the result of the transformation on a figure across a line called a line of reflection. A line of reflection. When reflecting a figure, each point of the pre-image and its image are the same distance from the line of reflection. The image and the pre-image are
Sister,
congruent. Yes?
are you sharing?
Yes, I will share again. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yes. So you can reflect a figure across the x-axis or across the y-axis. For example, here, as you see here, we have x-axis. This is x-axis here. This is x-axis. And here we have the pre-image, the triangle XYZ. And here we have the image, the triangle Z prime, X prime, Y prime. The distance from Z to the x-axis, as you see, we have here 1, 2, 3, equal the same distance from Z prime to the x-axis, as you see, 1, 2, 3. The same distance from Y, the distance from Y to the x-axis also equal the distance from Y prime to the x-axis. We have here 1, 2, 3, and here we have 1, 2, 3. And here from X to the line of the reflection or x-axis, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The same distance here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the same distance. And as you see, we have the same figure, but we have the opposite direction. We have the opposite direction. This is the meaning of the reflection. This is the meaning of the reflection. But the reflection here about the line of x-axis, the line of the reflection, x-axis. And if the reflection across the y-axis, this is y-axis, this is here y-axis. We have this triangle XYZ, and this is the reflection, triangle X prime, Z prime, Y prime. And this y-axis, this is the line of reflection. As you see, the distance from X to the y-axis equal the distance from Y prime to the y-axis. Here we have 1, 2, 3 units, and here we have 1, 2, 3 units. And here, from Z to the y-axis, we have 2 units. And here, from Z prime to the y-axis, we have 2 units. And from Y to the y-axis, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And from Y prime to the y-axis, also we have the same distance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So, as you see, in the reflection, we have the same figure, but the opposite direction. And always the pre-image distance across the line of the reflection. طيب, suppose we have a different line, not x-axis and not y-axis. Suppose we have y equal to. Suppose the line we have y equal to. This is y equal to. This line here, this is y equal to. And here we have the triangle zxy. This is the pre-image, and this is the image. Triangle z prime, x prime, y prime. As you see, we have the same figure, This triangle congruent with this triangle. What the meaning of congruent? Means the same measure of the corresponding angles and the same length of the corresponding sides. But we have the opposite direction, x here up, x prime here down. We have opposite direction. This reflection about or across the line of the reflection y equal to. This is not x-axis, this is parallel with x-axis. This is parallel with x-axis. Also, the distance from y to this line equal the distance from y prime to this line. The distance from x to this line equal the distance from x prime to this line. The distance from z to this line equal the distance from z prime to this line. Example here, reflect figures on the coordinate plane. The graph of triangle ABC is shown. We have this triangle ABC. Graph the image. This is a pre-image. Graph the image of triangle ABC after a reflection across x-axis. So we want to use x-axis. So start from this vertex C. What is the distance from C to the x-axis? 1 unit. So count 1 unit, and this is C prime. Then, what is the distance from B to the x? Count 1, 2, 3. 3 units. So count 3 units down. 1, 2, 3. This is B prime. Then A, the distance from A to the x-axis 2 units. So count 2 units down. This is A prime. Then match between the 3 points here. You will get the image triangle A prime, C prime, P prime. As you see here, we have the same figures or the congruent figures, but we have the opposite direction. Here B to the up, here B to the down. This reflection across x-axis, and this is the meaning of the reflection. And if we comparing between the order pairs or between the points between the pre-image and the image, as you see, A from the graph will be 5 in the x, 2 in the y, 5, 2. And A prime, we have 5 in the x and negative 2 in the y. Type. As you see, here we have 5, here we have 5. Means we have the same x. We have the same x. But here the y2, here the y negative 2. Means we have the opposite y. We have the same x and we have the opposite y. And here the same idea. Here we have 1 and here we have 1, means we have the same x. And here we have 3, here we have negative 3. We have opposite y, we have the same x, and we have the opposite y. We have the same x and we have the opposite y. The same idea here. Here we have the same x and here we have the opposite y. So when we have the reflection about or across x-axis, for example, A and A prime, we have the same X, but we have the opposite Y. We have the same X, but we have opposite Y. In this example, as you see, this is the pre-image, and the line of reflection will be y-axis, and this is the image. As you see, we have congruent figures, but we have the opposite direction. If we compare between P and P prime, P, as you see, 1, 1, 5. P will be 1, 5. As you see, we have the same Y. We have the same Y, but we have opposite X, -1 and 1. And compare between Q and Q prime. This is Q, 3 in the X, and 7 in the Y. So here 7, here 7, as you see, the same Y. The same Y. But we have opposite X. Here -3, here 3. We have opposite X. The same idea, compare between R and R prime. This is R, this is 4 in the X. And -1 in the Y. So as you see, we have the same Y, and here we have the opposite X. So means if the line of reflection will be y-axis, the rule will be if we have the point A, X, Y, the reflection about the y-axis will be the same Y, but the opposite X. Will be the same Y, but the opposite X. Now reflection figures on the coordinate plane. As you see, we have this triangle EFG. After a reflection across the X equal 3, write the coordinates of the image. So the first step, we want to draw X equal 3, go to the X-axis, determine 3, then draw a line parallel with Y-axis. This is here, X equal 3. Then how to draw the reflection figure? Now measure the distance between E and the line of the reflection. We have 1 unit, so take the same distance. So this is E prime. Then measure the distance from G to the line of the reflection. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So take the same distance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So this is G prime. And here we have F, the distance between F and the line of the reflection, 1, 2, 3 units. So take 3 units. So this is F prime. Then match between the points, you will get the image. This is pre-image, this is the image. And as you see in the reflection, we have the same distance between the vertices. We have the congruent figures, but we have the opposite direction. We have the opposite direction. And if you want to compare between the points. As you see here, E 2, 4. E prime will be 4, 4. So as you see, we have the same Y. Why we have the same Y? Because the line of the reflection parallel with y-axis, parallel with y-axis. So if the line of the reflection parallel with y-axis means the points have the same y, but we have different x. We have different x. And also here we have the same y, but different x, and also here the same idea. Here is the same idea, but here we have the line of the reflection parallel with x-axis. If the line of the reflection parallel with x-axis means if you compare between the points means we have the same x-axis, but we have the different y. And if you compare between A and A prime, as you see the x here -3 and the x here -3 means we have the same x because the line parallel with x-axis, the line parallel with x-axis. And here y -1, here y -3, we have different y. And also if you compare between B and B prime, here the x -1 -1, and here the y -5 1, means we have different y. And as you see here, we have C and C prime. So here we have the same x, and here we have different y. So means we can here say if the line of the reflection x-axis or parallel with x-axis means we have the same x. We have the same x, but the difference here, if we have the line of the reflection x-axis, we have the same x, but we have the opposite y. But if the line parallel with x-axis, we have x-axis, but we have different y. Now, if the reflection of the line will be y-axis, means we have the same y, but the opposite x. And if we have line parallel with y-axis, means we have the same y, but we have different x. As you see in this example, if you compare between A and B, A prime, the A will be 1 in x, 2 in y, A prime will be 1 in x, -2 in y. So as we see, we have the same x, but we have opposite y. Why opposite y? Because the reflection x-axis. When the reflection x-axis means we have the same x, but we have opposite y. Also here the same idea, the same x, and here we have the opposite y. And here the same x, and here we have the opposite y. So the rule, if we have xy, the reflection across x-axis will be x -y, the same x and the opposite y. If the line of the reflection y-axis, if you compare between the vertices, as you see here, A, 1 in x, 2 in y, A prime will be -1 in x, 2 in y. So we have the same y, but we have the opposite x. We have the same y, but we have the opposite x. The same idea, if you compare between P and P prime, we have the same y, 4, 4, and opposite x, 2 and negative. And here the same idea, we have 4, -4, and here 1. So means the rule, x, y, if the reflection across y-axis, we have the opposite of the x and the same y. So the reflection across the x-axis, x will be x the same, and y will be the opposite way, like this. And if the reflection across the x-axis, the y-axis, sorry, if the reflection across the y-axis means we have the opposite x and the same y. We have the opposite x and the same y, like this. In this example here, as you see here, we have triangle RST has a coordinate R21, S minus 1, 3, and T negative 2, 0, and the triangle is reflected across the x-axis. The x-axis. Write the coordinate notation for a reflection across the x-axis, then write the coordinate of the triangle R prime, S prime, T prime. And we can't directly write the coordinate without a graph. If we know the line of the reflection x-axis means keep the same x and take the opposite y. So R21 will be R prime 2 negative 1. Take the same x, 2 here, then take the opposite, y. Then S negative 1, 3 will be negative 1, negative 3. Take the same x, negative 1 here, negative 1 here, then take the opposite x. 3 here will be negative 3 here. Z minus 2, 0, take the same x minus 2, and 0 will be the same because the opposite of the 0 will be 0. Here the same idea, but here across the y-axis. So we can use the rule. If you have y-axis, means keep the same y, but take the opposite x. Keep the same y, but take the opposite x. So a prime will be 2, 4. 2, 4. B prime will be negative 1, 4. And C prime will be 1, 1. And D prime will be 5, 1. And here is the opposite idea. If I have the pre-image and the image, how to know what is the line of the reflection? And if you compare between E and E prime, as you see, we have X fixed, the same X, but we have the opposite Y. The same X and the opposite Y means the reflection about or across X-axis. The reflection will be across X-axis. And here in this example, as you see here, we have the same X, but we have the opposite Y. We have here negative 2, here 2, opposite Y. Here the same idea. We have the same X, but opposite Y. The same X, but opposite Y. So means here the reflection across X-axis. And the reflection will be across X-axis. So this is our lesson for today. Who has any question about this lesson? Are all ideas clear for all, please? Tell me, please.
Yes,
Are
Mr.
yes. Great. So now we know two ideas from the transformation. we know the translation in the previous lesson, and we know the reflection for this lesson. So now we learned two kinds of the transformation. Translation, the first kind, the previous lesson, and today reflection, طيب. Let us to take some examples about the same idea. This is our homework for today. I will send this homework in the teams. We have here extra practice, the name of our lesson reflections, and we have the first exercise. Who can read the task here, please? Who can read exercise number 1? طيب, can you read it, please?
The graph of trapezoid ABCD is shown. Graph the image of ABCD after the reflection across the x-axis. Write the coordinates of the reflected image.
Okay, thank you, طيب. طيب, as we see here, we know across the y-axis, we know the line of the reflection. And here we have trapezoid. Trapezoid have 4 vertices. How to graph the reflection figure? Start from here. This is the line. This is the reflected line. This is A. Count how many units from A to the line of reflection. We have 1 unit, 2 units. So count 2 units up. 1, 2. So this is A prime. The same idea, count from B to the line. What is the distance? 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So take the same distance, 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Then, here you have 2 units. Take the same distance here, 2 units. Here, see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Take 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is C prime. Then match between the points. You will get the image. This is the pre-image, and this is the image. As you see, we get the congruent figure, but the opposite direction. The opposite direction. Now, write the coordinates of the reflect image. And here, the rule, if you have the point x, y, and we have the reflection across the x-axis, means keep the same x and take the opposite y. طيب, what is the A coordinate? As you see, A, -2 in the x and -2 in the y. So the reflection across x-axis will be A prime. Keep the same x and take the opposite y. The opposite -2 will be 2. And what is B? As you see, B, -3 in the x and -4 in the y. The reflection across the x-axis will be B prime. Keep the same x, -3. and take the opposite y will be 4. And what is d? As we see, the 1, negative 2. 1, negative 2. So the reflection across x-axis will be d prime. Keep the same x1 and take the opposite y will be 2. And what is C? C? As you see, C here 2 minus 4. The reflection will be C prime. Keep the same x2 and take the opposite y will be 4. I will send to you this extra practice as homework. You can start your solving from number 2. I want from all students to solve the homework, please, at least 5 exercises. At least 5 exercises. Not allowed less than 5. Not allowed. If you want to solve the all, you will get more marks, inshallah. Who has any question about this lesson? Who has any question about this idea? Are all ideas clear for all? No questions, girls? Taif, do you have any question?
No, Mister.
Aliazia? Aliazia, do you have any question?
No, Mister.
Reka, do you have any question?
No, Mister.
Okay, so this is our period for today. Thank you for your listening. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.